So you sent me this incredible email. I wanted to just kind of tell me kind of your story in a thumbnail sketch. What happened? You've gone to these doctors over and over again, and just hasn't really worked, and you got the runaround. I just want to hear your story.
Okay. Well, first of all, diabetes runs in my family, the whole family, starting as far back as I know from my grandparents. And so I've always been preached to growing up that it's going to happen. Okay. My cousins and my father, all on my father's side, on the Nielsen side, all of my cousins and his brothers and everybody. And so when I see that many people with diabetes, I can't go on the notion that it's because they got fat. I can't go on. I've heard a lot of things about this. It was something to be on the lookout for, and sure enough, I knew I was having problems back in the 80s. And I would talk to my doctors about it. I knew that if I had sugar in the morning and coffee, I would be in big trouble by 9 o'clock, right in the middle of a test or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
By the time the 90s rolled around, it was really bad. And I would talk, so I learned to avoid sugar in the morning, especially in my coffee or something. And I would talk to my doctors about this, and nobody was telling me anything. They would just say, eat an apple, it has pectin, it'll help stabilize your blood, or eat protein. And I'm like, I don't understand all this. But now I do. I understand what was going on is that I was becoming a diabetic, a full-blown diabetic. And so I knew how pretty much to come in under the wire, because I would fast before any tests like you're supposed to. So it never was showing up in my urine, and they weren't telling me anything. And then one day I finally said enough is enough. And I had on hand some Raisin Bran cereal, which I never really ate. But somebody else that had been visiting wanted it, so I bought it. And there it was. I said, I'm going to have 2 big bowls, and I'm really going to pour the sugar on it. And then I'm going to go to this doctor's appointment. And that's what happened. Is I had a gynecology appointment, and they do your full thing, blood thing, everything. And the next thing I know, I'm being grabbed by the elbow, being escorted across the room. There was sugar in my urine. So they pricked my finger, and it came back 220. I said, it's full-blown diabetes. Great. It's only been how many years? I've been trying to tell you something's wrong. Something's wrong. You have to understand, I had very limited knowledge at the time. And this was probably about 4 years ago. 3 to 4 years. It had to be 3 years ago. So they set me up an appointment with an endocrinologist, and I went and I saw them. And of course, having the history, I just went out and bought a meter and immediately started doing what I was supposed to do. Check my blood, 7 times a day, fasting before and after each meal. And after a while, you pretty much could predict what it was going to be. They put me on Metformin, 500 milligrams in the morning and evening, and I took it religiously. And then I was only careful to eat approved grains like quinoa or brown rice, very moderately. At the same time, I had an ongoing weight issue, okay? And the answer was to lose the weight. Yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. I tried. I mean, I tried everything, and it got to a point one time where all I would eat was apples. Apples seemed to satisfy me. You know, it was good for my stomach. I could work and eat it. If you got hungry, you could eat one, and and that worked pretty good. And I did lose some weight. Who knows what kind of weight? Weight. That's another thing. I know I didn't like weighing myself because I'm smart enough to know that weight is nothing more than mass times gravity. So which mass am I losing? I have a very active job, and I'm a very active person, so I need a lot of muscle. And when I go to try to do something and find out that I no longer have this muscle, I know which mass I just lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave up on the whole weighing yourself thing, okay? And then I took this metformin. I did what I was supposed to do. I'm really good at following orders. And then I had this problem. I ran out of metformin. So what do you do when you run out of metformin? You call your doctor, you make an appointment, do whatever you got to do. When I called the doctor, I got yelled at by the receptionist. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? This was last March. I just got back from Montana. You know, I ran out of metformin. That's what you do. You call your doctor. And they said, where have you been? I don't get it. What do you mean? You haven't been in 3 years. Well, you didn't tell me to. I didn't know you wanted to see me. I didn't exactly see you banging my door down to come in and see you. What's the problem? This is not a problem. We'll get it straightened out. Whatever we got to do. It's not a problem. And so I went in and saw them. I didn't know they were going to draw blood that day. I hadn't fasted or anything. And I truly believe in fasting before a blood test. So they drew my blood and everything. And I talked to what was, it's never the doctor. I never see the doctor. I always see physician's assistant or something, but it's never I've never seen this doctor. And I was telling her about where I was in life and what I was doing and how I was eating. And I wanted to concentrate on my adrenal gland. Now I was 52 at the time. I'm now 53. I'm 52 years old. You know, I really want to know what's going on with my body, and I want to concentrate on my liver, and I want to concentrate on my adrenal gland. And I think if those two things are good, everything else will come together. And she says, great, let's test these things. I said, okay. So they drew some blood, and I waited for these tests to come back. And when I called them up, it wasn't good news. It wasn't good news. I was wanting to hear that I could come off the metformin because I know it's not good for your kidneys, okay? My father was on it for like 30 years, I think. He just recently passed away. He was 84 when he passed away. And I am now at the age when he started his metformin. So even though it was okay for him, I didn't want to be on the metformin, okay? Mm-hmm. So what they did is they put me on 3 pills. Not just one now, it's 3. It's the metformin, plus something to protect my kidneys. Wonderful. And then I think it was cholesterol. Okay, so in all this leading up to here, I had tried going vegan. I had tried everything I knew how to do. It was hard for me to go vegan. I failed. I failed because one morning I looked in the mirror, I looked at my hair, and I'm like, what is wrong with my hair? What's going on with my hair? I felt fine, but my hair was showing something, okay? Mm-hmm. So I ate a lot of fish, a lot of brown rice and stuff. And when that doctor's report came back and they now had me on 3 pills, I was furious. I was upset. And so I said, okay, I've got to see this for myself. So I went down and got the hard copy, came back and started looking up all the numbers. And the numbers looked fine. According to Google, they looked fine. I didn't see anything wrong with them. And then I was mad because of the cholesterol test. I didn't feel like they were even listening to me, period. They did what they wanted to do. They ran whatever tests they wanted to run. This is what the insurance pays for, and that's all there was to it, and prescribed more medication. So I called my insurance company with a bit of a complaint about this, and I told them that I didn't like the way I was treated, and I don't understand these numbers. They look fine. So they put me in touch with their nurse, which I was surprised to find out they had a nurse. And I talked to her and I said, I don't get it. According to these numbers and what I'm looking up, I look normal. She said, that's because you are normal. I said, well, then why are they doing this? Why are they putting me on more pills? I don't want this. And the phone just went silent. And she said, frankly, you should be afraid of this other one too. Okay, the one that protects your kidneys has side effects. That's wonderful. Something about swollen lips, and I'm like, no, I can't deal with this. Okay, so I said, okay, all right. I have to do something about this. So I went out and I got the prescriptions. I put them in the drawer and I closed the drawer. And I said, I'm going to give it 6 months. 6 months. And I started testing my blood after every single thing I did. Everything. If I went for a walk, I tested my blood. If I drank a glass of water, I tested my blood. if I ate supper, before supper, during supper, whatever. I just kept testing my blood, and I had all these mental notes, and then I started taking notes, you know, just so I can, you know, what time of day, what's going on at this time of the day, you know. I had the morning phenomenon going on. You know, my A1C came back 5.1, 5.2. You know, I'm like, this is supposed to be excellent. Why am I having to keep taking this stuff? Well, it turns out that the 5 range may be excellent, but it's not perfect. And I'm now striving for perfection. Okay. So I kept doing this, and then I had this glass of sugar-free Hawaiian punch. Okay. Every once in a while, I like to have a little sugar-free Hawaiian punch. And it tastes good, you know. Boom. The sugar went up to like 130. I'm like, what's up with this?
Wow.
Okay, you can't lie to a diabetic. You might be able to lie on labeling, but you can't lie to a diabetic because the proof is in the blood. So I started Googling NutraSweet and what's the other one? NutraSweet and
aspartame.
Is it aspartame?
Sweet and low.
No, not Sweet and Low. Sweet and Low won't spike your blood.
It was Splenda.
Yeah, Splenda and NutraSweet. And it come to find out they're 50% sugar. I'm like, wonderful. That's just great. Have you ever seen sugar-free? Because when I was going vegan, that means to get away from cream as well, right? So I said, okay, well, God, I gotta have cream in my coffee. I'll go berserk. That's the one thing I think I have a weakness for is cream in my coffee. And so I tried Coffee Mate, sugar-free Coffee Mate. And my friend sends me a text and says, what's the first ingredient in Coffee Mate? I'm like, I don't know. I looked at it. You know what it is? You want to know what it is?
What?
It's corn syrup. Yeah. In the trash that went. So anyway, so yeah, I was testing my blood after everything I did, and anything that would spike the blood went in the trash. And that was it. And what I found out, at the same time, I found you. I found you. I found something that you put out had to have made sense to me. Because like I said, all of what I had heard in the past wasn't adding up. You can't blame McDonald's for diabetes. My grandpa didn't have McDonald's. They weren't fat. I've got pictures of them. They weren't heavy. But the one thing that struck me, and I kind of already knew, because I have a good friend that whose wife had cancer, and he was trying to put weight on her. And I said, well, that's simple. All you have to do is release insulin, right? That much I knew. What I didn't realize was that the one thing that must be absent to burn fat is insulin. So the question is, at what point in my blood does insulin release? I don't know. Try to find that number somewhere. So I'm guessing it's somewhere around 99 or 100. Anything over 100 maybe? I don't know. But if you stop and think about what I was eating, it becomes very clear why I couldn't lose weight. Okay, so I would get up in the morning. I may or may not eat breakfast, depending. Fruit was my friend. Strawberries, blueberries. Doesn't matter if it has sugar in it. You're going to have insulin in your system. It may not spike it really bad to a point of like 200 or 220, but you still have insulin in your system. And then at lunch, like last year when I went skiing, every day for lunch I had brown rice and rainbow trout for lunch. Just a little bit, not even a lot, just a little bit, you know. Nobody could figure out why I was heavy. My friend that I'm staying with here now even said they never could figure out how I could be heavy. She said all she could figure is that maybe when I wasn't around them, I was chowing down on potato chips or something, you know? And I'm like, no, my family couldn't figure it out. I was always that skinny kid, you know? And it was very gradual. It was very gradual, and that's what happens when insulin is in your system. You don't go through that natural process of eating food, storing fat, burning fat, eating food, you know. You just constantly have this insulin in your stomach. So that led me to look up more stuff. And like I said, one thing led to another, and I can't remember the exact order that everything happened. But I found out that beta cells in your pancreas are replicated between the ages of 2 and 4 months. Okay? And genetically speaking, some people either get them, they either get a lot, or they don't. And it just so happens I didn't get a lot.
Yeah, the beta cell is the cell in the pancreas that makes insulin. So
yes, yes. And so over time, when those beta cells are having to continuously pump out insulin, they get damaged. Okay.
that makes sense.
So then my next thought was, well, let's get some more beta cells. How hard can that be? They replicate, right? No, they don't. They don't just replicate. And then a lot of things started to really make sense. And that was the natural process of things. When you're diabetic, you'll gain weight, okay, because of the insulin in your system all the time. But eventually, your body's going to say enough is enough, and it's going to start excreting that sugar. And it's also going to be excreting, you're not going to be able to take nutrients in real well, and you're going to start dropping weight. It's one of the symptoms of diabetes, which I never experienced. I guess it never got that bad. And the thirstiness is because you're excreting that toxin called sugar. You're thirsty, and your body's trying to flush this out, trying to excrete it through urine. And eventually the weight will drop. Now, I don't know how far that would go. I'm glad I never had to find out. But when you're, according to the research that I was reading, once your percentage body fat gets down into the single digits, guess what happens? Beta cells start replicating again. So when I went to get my hard copy from my doctors, first of all, they don't answer the phone. I had to go in. I mean, the whole thing was just irritating, okay? I went and I got the hard copy. I turned around, and I'm exiting the office, and what did I see? Hit me right in the face.
So the patients?
About 12 morbidly obese patients. And I thought to myself, they're not helping these people at all. Has anybody ever told them that grains are just simply off limits to you? Would they care? I don't know, but I don't think they enjoy being on insulin and forcing that sugar back into their body, which is causing the problem in the first place. So anyway, so I did 6 months and no grains, no sugars, no potatoes. I don't care about potatoes anyways. I never really cared for any of this stuff. Didn't bother me. The only reason I ate bread was because it held a sandwich, you know? That's how you carry a sandwich, and bread, right?
Right.
6 months. And the next thing I knew, when I was sitting there taking my blood over and over again, I started thinking, and I'm like, you know, I do have some knowledge of all this. From what I'm seeing, I should be in ketosis. You know, I don't feel any different. So I said, well, I'll go get some keto strips and we'll find out. Sure enough, I was in ketosis. And then I thought, okay, so I'm burning fat, but what fat? So I Googled that, you know, and they said, from what I read, they said, there's no way to tell except by weighing yourself. Am I burning the fat that I eat, or am I burning the fat on my body? You have to weigh yourself. I'm like dead against the weighing. I said, okay, all right, I'll do it this one time. I'll weigh myself, because I knew what I weighed when I went into the doctor's office. And lo and behold, I was down 10 pounds. And when I went up to somebody and I said, do I look like I've lost 10 pounds? And they said, well, you know, 10 pounds is hard to tell, you know? And I said, okay, all right, well, whatever. I'm just going to keep on this same track, because my blood sugar was stabilizing at like 99. I thought that was great, you know? 99, it might go to 100, down, up, down a little bit, you know, but not 110 or anything like that. If I ever saw something go to 110, I was to the gym, you know, and I'd burn it off. I had learned about how your muscles and everything will absorb that glycogen. You've got to use it. You've got to use it up. You got to burn it up, get it out. So that's what I was doing. And I did that religiously for 6 months, and I had absolutely no problem doing it. I didn't miss any of the grains. You don't miss things that make your life miserable, right? So 6 months rolled around, and I had another blood test taken. It was just prior to going out of town. I had the blood drawn, and then I headed up to Vermont, and I waited a few days till I thought the test had come back. Or they called me and told me that everything looked good, but they wanted me to cut the metformin in half. And I had to laugh because I'm like, you can't cut 0 in half, right? I'm like, what was that number that they want me to cut this metformin in half? They must be worried that my blood sugar is going to drop too low. Yeah. So I called them up, and trying to get the numbers out of them was like pulling teeth. My A1C was 4.6.
Wow.
No medication. None. And all I needed to be told all that time was to cut out all grains. They're off limits to me. It's that simple. It really is that easy. And in the meantime, I'm down about 35 pounds.
Wow.
And I still have the muscle. I continued to work out, you know, and working with my weights and stuff because I'm a skier. I'm out here in Montana for a couple months out of the year skiing. So I was a little bit worried because in the past, when I've lost weight, it's been a lot of muscle. So when I got out here this week, my friend invited me out to come out early. I hit the mountain hard. I hit it for 5 days straight, 6 hours a day.
Wow.
Not a problem.
Wow.
Not a problem. So there's no, and I am not eating any different. That's the thing. I'm having 2 eggs in the morning. I carry my lunch, my salad with me, and I might have like a little pouch of tuna with it or something like that. But following your advice has got me where I am, and you know, I can't be any more thankful than this, just being where I am. It's you know, and my mother is so happy, you know, because I put her on that diet.
Wow.
She doesn't have diabetes. And she'd say, but I don't have diabetes. I was like, yes, Mom, but if you want to do this, that, and the other thing, you've got to follow this, you know? So yeah. And, you know, my father always struggled with it. You know, as long as he stayed under 7, he was okay with his doctor, you know, for his A1C.
Yeah. Cause just to tell everyone, A1C is like the average blood sugars between 6 and 3 months, 6 weeks to 3 months. And then basically normal, you know, is like, I think 5.2 or 5.5 or something. Anything higher, they say it's diabetes. So they're trying.
Well, this paper here that I got from my doctor, this is funny actually, because they're telling me that my preference range is 4.8 to 5.6, and I came in at 4.6, which is lower than the reference range, they call it. I don't know. Can you see it? If I hold it up close enough, where is it?
Yeah, I think I could see it.
Hold on. I'll put it right there at my middle finger.
Yeah, I see that. That's amazing. Yeah, that's so. Did this doctor?
I haven't had a chance to go over all the numbers, but you know.
So this doctor's saying, like, "Wow, your sugar's down." Are they going, "Wow, what are you doing? Keep doing it. Get off the medication."
I haven't talked to them. I just haven't talked to them. You know, I've been really quite busy because my father passed away this past summer. And so I've been going from New York, like Syracuse to Florida, back and forth. I've been to New York, I think 5 times, in Florida 3 times, along with running my own business and having 2 litters of puppies. You know, to talk to people that weren't helping me just wasn't on my list of priorities, right?
Yeah.
So I had an appointment to go in there and see them. And I thought to myself, what in the world am I seeing them for? Because I'm going to throw down $30 and I'm doing all the work. All they did was draw the blood.
Exactly.
Insurance paid for that, right?
Right.
So when we get back, if they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. But I don't see why I should pay $30 to tell them what their job should have been. I mean, do I have a point here?
Yeah, you do.
I've been seeing them for quite some time, and I'm convinced that their job is to make me a returning customer.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's a sad state that we're in, but that's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, there's unfortunately it's just the management of your so-called symptoms. And yeah, I when I broke my my arm, I went to the ortho doc, and I'm sitting in the waiting room seeing all these elderly people. They just go in there, they're on meds. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm going on a different.
Something great. I put my mother on the K2 D3, K2, whatever, however you want to put it. Okay. She no longer uses a cane.
Wow.
She will tell you that herself. I didn't know she was using a cane. She had she had so much pain just trying to walk across the room. She's like 83. But, you know, to see her on Skype or something, I Skype with her just about every day. You wouldn't know that she was in that kind of trouble.
That's
But
fantastic.
I sent that to her, and, you know, she wouldn't use it until all of her other D was gone, you know, like, Mom, you know, set it aside, no. So she finally went on it, and then she got back with me, and she's just so happy.
Wow.
She's just,
Yeah, K2, especially as you get older, it drives all the calcium out of the soft tissue, out of the joint, out of the arteries. So you could
right.
take serious pain out of a joint with that K2 and the D3. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I wanted just to mention one thing about, you mentioned about insulin and kind of the relationship between blood sugars. Basically, we have about 1.5 gallons of blood in our body, and with 1.5 gallons of blood, we need about 1 teaspoon of sugar. That's it. Anything more is like way too much. So that 1 teaspoon of sugar, and I'm just giving an average, like an average body, is 100. I think it's milliliters per deciliter, whatever, milligrams per deciliter, which basically is 100. So we want it 100, maybe a little bit lower if your diet's really good, because you're adapting to lower. You're not running on sugar anymore. You can run on fat, fuel source. So so what's happening in the medical profession is they're slowly dropping all these normal values to put everyone on more medication. They do it with cholesterol. They're doing it with A1C. They're doing it with your the, what do you call that, body mass or something, like index, BMI.
Body mass.
They put all these people on obese, and now they just basically made obesity into a disease, and now they can treat that. So it's really, I mean, to me, it's really obvious. Some people don't see it, but it's just it's the biggest scam on the planet. It's terrible.
I know one of the things that caught my attention. I had read many years, probably about 10 years ago, something about the doctors were going to have to admit that they've been wrong about cholesterol.
Right.
And that the real problem was inflammation. And that caught my attention. Okay. And then there was a couple of things like this that caught my attention from you. And that's why I just started watching every video that you had, you know. But I haven't found any fault in any of them yet. You know, I'm just saying, because, you know, after talking to so many doctors and so many people are brainwashed to think that if you've got diabetes because you're heavy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Weight has nothing to do with it. If that were a fact, every backpacker out there would have diabetes.
Right.
So that wasn't making any sense. I couldn't buy that either. But the whole thing with the insulin in your blood so now when I test my blood, it's usually coming up about 86.
Wow.
You know,
that's great.
Yesterday it was 86. And here's something too that I don't have an answer to, but it's good. And that is, I went out to dinner with a friend and I ordered onion soup. I figured, how bad could that be, right? Well, when it came to me, and this is after my blood test of 4.6, okay? When it came to me, I realized they put a piece of bread in it. I'm like, what the heck? Who puts bread in their soup? You know? I'm like, well, whatever. You know, I can't fight this right now. I got more important things to do. So I'm like, so I ate the bread, and then my friend David is saying, you want to have a sandwich? I'm like, no, you know, I don't want to have a sandwich. And then I thought, you know what? I think I will. And it was on, we were at Applebee's, I think. And it was on this really thick bread, like sour cream bread, or what do they call it? Sourdough bread or something. Huge, it's like half a loaf of bread, you know? It's like, who eats like this, right? So it was a half a sandwich. So I got a full slice of bread, and then I had a full slice of bread in my soup too, you know? I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do this just for my own experiment. I use my own body as an experiment. So when I got home, it was just like maybe 30 minutes after we ate or something. And I tested my blood and it was at 99. I'm like, no, okay, I'm going to wait 2 hours and test it again. Tested it again 2 hours later, 86. So something happened. Something kicked in.
Yeah. Your system is healing.
My system might be, exactly, my system might be healing. Wouldn't that be something? I will never go back to eating wheat flour again, though. I
No.
don't have a need for it. I can't utilize it. Here all the time, I thought it was meat that I couldn't utilize. It wasn't the meat. It was the flour, you
Right.
know? Right. So now I use almond flour. I've got it. I don't travel without my own food. I've got a Yeti cooler. I keep it in the back of the truck. And my mother she chuckles, but she thinks this is great. You know, she's so happy for me. You know, some people are always going to be critical of what you're doing, you know, but I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I always like to ask those guys, okay, so what's your solution? You know, like you should just keep going to the doctor. I'm not getting results.
No, no, I have no prescriptions, none, zero, zip. I have no need for a drugstore.
Yeah,
No
that's so great.
drugstore, and that's great. I keep thinking to myself, I feel so weird. I've been going to the drugstore every month for how long now? You know, it's like I don't have to do this anymore.
It's not.
They're going to hate me. And I keep thinking, you know, Dr. Berg, he better watch out. They're going to knock him off.
Well, you know, I never like attack any individual. I attack the system. So, you know, that I got to tell people the truth. I'm not a renegade trying to like attack any individual. Because here's the real problem. You got these medical doctors, and this is a common issue. You go there and you like, why can't they see these things? Why can't they just figure it out? Why are they doing it? They went to school all this, you know, these years, and they should figure this out. But the whole system, the schooling, how they're taught, you don't have time to evaluate the data coming in. It's like a garden hose filled of data that they're shoving down your throat.
Right.
All you have to do is pass the test, memorize, pass the test. You don't evaluate the data to see if it's true, test it out to see if everything is. So over, you know, 8 years, 9 years of doing that, you develop tremendous amounts of false data in your brain, and you're not very flexible or open-minded after that. You're very, you know, closed-minded. This is the way I was taught. This is the way we're going to do it. So, yeah, they don't really even understand it. So it's just very cookbook right now. This is what we do. We're doing medicine. Take this. So they have a hard time looking outside the box. To me, it's almost a version of brainwashing. You know, it's like, because they're so adamant about this thing. Like I'll have people that will come off medication all the time, and I'm thinking the doctor should go, wow, this is amazing. Let me share this with my patients. Not one of them has ever, well, a couple have, but it's not very common. I had a guy, kidney dialysis. The doctor says, there's no way you're going to reverse that. So we worked with him. His port was dry. That means he didn't need to filter his blood. He didn't need kidney dialysis anymore. And the doctor didn't even want to see him because it makes him wrong. Just like, yeah, just leave, just get out of here. So, you know, it's just, I think they're just caught up in the system. The system is there's not a lot of science in it. It's the management of symptoms. It's a big business. And unfortunately, you know, they do attack alternative doctors, but yeah, I'm just making sure I don't step on too many toes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, you know, I try to help people, but I'm not a doctor, and a lot of times they don't want to listen to me, but proof is in the package.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They got
proof. I'm living proof. And so, yeah. And I'll tell you another thing that happened was my husband is like one of these people that doesn't want to listen to anybody. You know, he's one of these people, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was testing my blood all the time, I would like to test other people's blood because I was so fascinated how it doesn't change. I'm like, that is so awesome. I mean, you know, people would purposely eat a donut or something just so that I could test their blood 2 hours from now and see it not change, you know. And my husband would never let me test his blood, you know. And then finally he decided, I guess, to jump on the bandwagon, right? He had a steak. He loved these huge steaks, huge potatoes, you know, for supper. And I probably had salad or something, right? And 2 hours had gone by, and I was testing my blood, and I would come out and tell him what my numbers were. And then he goes, you can test mine. Oh, I jumped on that one, you know?
Right.
So I tested the blood. He was eating some watermelon at the time. I tested his blood, and I just, whoa. I backed up, right?
What was it?
272.
How did he react to that?
Yeah. He got up, he walked in the kitchen and spit the watermelon in the sink. I said, you really want to see something? Come back in 2 hours and do it again. He could lose his job over that.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wake up call.
Yeah. Because he has a CDL license, he is high voltage, and you can't be going around with syrupy blood, you know. So now he thought that he had issues with his prostate or something because he had to urinate so much at night. But now he thinks what it was is the sugar was too high. So anyways, I made a doctor's appointment for him the next day. And for some reason, they wanted me to come in there with him. So I went in. And I don't, you know, I'm not one of these people that hang over him and mother him and stuff like that. I figure he's a grown man, he can handle it. Wrong. Wrong, right? So come to find out, he had an A1C taken 2 years ago. I said, really? Because he was telling me his doctor said he was healthy and everything. And I'd take one look at him and say, I'd like to talk to your doctors, you know? So the doctor looked it up and it was 7.8 or something 2 years ago. And I looked at him and I said, 7.8? You hear me talk about the numbers all the time. At what point did you think that there was nothing wrong with this?
Right.
And then he got all puppy-eyed, you know, like, you know, yeah, you know, okay. So they drew some blood and they did an A1C right there in the office, okay? And they come to find out they had put him on some pill because he can't take metformin. He only has one kidney. So he can't take metformin. So they put him on something else, which he decided he didn't need because it was $100 a month for this pill, okay? So the doctor left the office. And when she came through, she came flying through that door, slammed that door wide open. Bam! His A1C was 11 point something. She pointed at him and said, you're going on insulin right now, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he pitched a fit, and then I pitched a fit, you know, and it was like, it was on in the doctor's office, right? So I'm like, look, they'll just do it until you bring it down, and then we will manage it, okay? So he went home with the insulin, and he started to stick it once a night until he could get it down to about 140, 120, something like that. And it was taking a little longer than he wanted. He wanted it down right now, you know? But I told him, I said, you're going to have to go work out, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so he did that, and he ordered his pills, you know, and I said, look, I tell you what, we'll go to the Nolan Trail in Newport News. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a beautiful trail. It rolls over hills through the woods. Mm-hmm. And it's 5 miles long. And then I started thinking, we can't run that. I don't know what condition his heart is in. I was really worried. And it's out through the woods. And I'm like, we'll walk it. And we'll make it last 2 hours. And this will bring it down 50 points. Yeah. And it brought it down 50 points. And then, you know, he kept on. He would go for a run. He would run a mile just around the block. And he got it down to about, it was ranging between 99 and 110 or something like that, you know, whatever. I said, okay, now stop everything. And just manage it through your diet and exercise. Mm-hmm. And then he went back to his doctor, right? Because he had an appointment, I think 3 weeks later, something like that. He went back and saw her, and he had been keeping his records and everything. And she said she's never seen anybody get that sugar under control so fast in her life.
Wow, he was motivated.
And he said, well, I had a good coach. And she goes, I know you did. Yeah. Well, and it was all due to your help.
That's so great. I really hope now he follows your advice and he sticks to it.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Elaine, for doing this presentation. I'm going to let you go. But it was a wonderful story, and I appreciate what you're doing and spreading the word. And
I try.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Awesome. My pleasure.